Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 4000. My Artifact episode number 4155. Today's date is July 16, 2026. It's been almost like a morning at 8, exactly 8 a.m. Let's just jump into the question. Alright, let's go. The question is, if Adam never existed, what people lose? That's a really good question. First of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build a AI. AI is artificial intelligence that could predict the future. I wanted in the future. Okay. Before I wanted to build this such a AI that could predict the future, I wanted to ask or I wanted to aware of all the possible consequences that key if I build this AI that could predict the future, what might gonna happen and how do I supposed to be control it. So I'm just try to be aware of that particular thing. Like if I build that thing, then what might gonna happen, good, bad things and that and that. So I went to ChatGPT. I tell my kind of like a AI idea regarding about that and that. Also tell him that he suggests me at least like hundreds of all the possible consequences regarding about if I build this kind of like a AI that will predict the future. Suggest me all the possible consequences. ChatGPT kind of like suggests me all the possible consequences in question format. This is one of those questions. By the way, question actually in the mobile phone, but while in the recording I cannot do anything at all, so I wrote the question in here. By the way, this is the book that I'm reading. Okay, yeah, it's a really good book. Highly recommend to read the book. Not highly recommend. It's for the people who are enthusiastic regarding about the science and gravity and space and things. For those people, not for everybody. This book is not for everybody. Okay, yeah. Whatever. Let's just kind of like understand regarding about that. Okay, what if Adam never existed? What might people lose? Like a first of all, let's just understand what is exactly Adam. Adam is a kind of like AI that could predict the future. Okay, so if I not build such a AI that could predict the future, what might happen or what might things happen? Like what exactly is this thing? Like what is exactly the people will gonna lost and things and that and that. Like this is a kind of like such a question that very different. It's a kind of like a thing that na ki um, you haven't really get trophy, and the question actually asks that ki how do you feel when you not win the trophy, or I don't know how am I supposed to explain this thing. It's a kind of like a thing is that na ki um, it's a very hard to kind of like give the answer. Why? Because of that key Adam is a AI that could predict the future. Okay, does people need such a AI that could predict the future? Well, definitely not. Okay, yeah. From today's point of perspective, it's not. But in future point of perspective, it will be. What I'm thinking is that na ki let's kind of like understand this analogy with a kind of like a example that you might gonna understand. Okay. Every year iPhone launch a new camera, sorry, new phone. Okay, Apple company actually launch a new phone, iPhone 16, iPhone 17, iPhone 18 and things and that and that. What if the Apple decided that this year they will not gonna launch any kind of like a something phone or things and that and that. So what might happen with them? Well, probably nothing. If I'm try to think about that key kind of like a something like a basically is this thing that key like a like context point of perspective, like a reality point of perspective, nothing really happened. But economic point of perspective, it actually happened a lot. Okay, what exactly it means? Okay, um we are innovating stuff is not because of that we need it, we are innovating stuff is because of economy are rely on that. Okay, what is exactly that? What exactly is this thing? Okay, so if like I'm kind of like a comparing Apple camera, sorry, Apple phone with the Adam. Okay, because Apple iPhone is a kind of like a somewhat something, a kind of like a common example that everyone understands. So I'm kind of like a thinking from that point of perspective. All right. So let's just say a Apple company who they didn't really launch this year a new phone, then what might gonna happen? It's not really that ki people are kind of like a something stop using mobile phone. No, and it's not really that ki iPhone is the only company who kind of like a make the phone. No, then basically the world does not stop. If kind of like a Apple stop making phone, world does not stop. But it kind of like a affect, like basically it does not really happen, but kind of like a something the company might gonna get broke. Why? It is because of that he usually right now we are arrive at some certain stage where growth are rely on innovation. Usually innovation are rely on need, like basically previously almost like a thousands of year ago or 100 200 year ago, innovation are happen is because of need. But right now we are in such a era, or in the future, we are doing innovation is not because of need, is because of the economy, is because of the kind of like a money, is because of, oh my god, this is a lot of bugs. It's not bugs, it's a bees, by the way. I never really seen that many bunch of bees at the same time. Okay, whatever. So innovation is actually happen is because like innovation is actually happen is not because of need, is because of the economy. Example, if the Apple company decided that they will not gonna launch a new phone, then it's not really that people are not using the phone and things like that and that, but the company might get loss. Why? Because of that a lot of things are actually connected with the iPhone company and things and that. They kind of like something, their share prices actually drop. The people might gonna kind of like lose a faith in the Apple company, that they are not making the phone and things and that. So this is what it is. It's kind of like a thing that we are innovating stuff today is not because of we need it, it's because of the economy are wanted to kind of like innovate stuff. Economy, and economy is kind of like a very essential. Economy means like that ki stock market, kind of like a something. Economy means kind of like a something is this thing that ki lot of stuff regarding about financial things and that people might gonna lose the money and things and that if they did not kind of like a something improve their phone or kind of like a laptop, or they didn't launch anything at all, so they might gonna lose the money, the credibility and things and that, and because of this thing the company might gonna die. So for that particular purpose, company are always try to launch their phone every single year. Same goes with the Samsung company, same goes with the every kind of like a things. Okay, everything they are kind of like do this thing to kind of like upgrade themselves, to kind of like to sustain in the economy, so that they are kind of like showing that they are kind of like doing something, so that it kind of like a matter to them and that. So do you understand? So like this is kind like you have to understand this thing. uh, Thousands of year ago, or maybe hundreds of year ago, we are kind of hundreds or 200 year ago, we are kind of like innovating stuff is because of we need it. But right now or in the future, we are innovating stuff is because of the economy, or kind of like things are wanted to kind of like somebody improve and things like that, and that is not because of the needed. Okay, so same goes with the Adam is a kind of like a AI that could predict the future. So if I didn't really build Adam that could predict the future, what might people lose? Well, like basically people will not gonna lose, but I will gonna lose so much. Why I will gonna lose so much is because of that key. Let's understand the kind of like it's, this is not about the kind of like some psychology or things. It's about the kind of like a finance. It's about the kind of like a money. It's about the kind of like some recognition. It's because of that kind of like somebody is this thing that ki, are we worth it or not? Example, why does Elon Musk have so much amount of money, almost like he is a first trillionaire? If he he just wanted to sit at home and not do any kind of like a work for rest of the lifetime, and kind of like somebody enjoy as good as life is that he want. But he tends to do work. Why? Is because of that he can able to be do this thing, not because of like he can able to do this thing, like I don't know how to supposed to explain this thing. When you are a bigger person, big person, you kind of like hold a kind of like a big responsibility, and that big responsibility kind of like make you more bigger person. Like, okay, let's just say I am the Elon Musk, okay, and if I decided that I will take the retirement, I will not gonna do any kind of like a work, I will kind of like stay at home and kind of like simply live my life, okay, whatever the money that I earn. So basically, if I decided that, then I will not gonna consider as a Elon Musk as a Elon Musk. I would consider as a kind of like just a guy who kind of like get retired and things like that. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing that Elon Musk arrive at such a stage where he holds a lot of responsibility. People are look up to him and kind of like thinking that he might gonna do something much more bigger. So responsibility. So because of he is holding that much big responsibility, and if he quit that responsibility, he will become just a normal person. But he don't want to become normal person, because like basically is this thing, when you hold a big responsibility, you are kind of like somebody, it's your job to kind of like create something, or kind of like somebody like create something, or kind of like I don't know, kind of like live up with that responsibility, to kind of like that key, like basically people are kind of like looking up to me. I have a responsibility, so I have a kind of like some innovate stuff, I have to be kind of like build stuff, I have to be kind of like somebody, yeah, like that's why kind of like Elon Musk are kind of like building the rocket, or kind of like something, the Starlink, or kind of like a Tesla, or things and that is not because of that kind of like somebody is this thing that it's a day job. No, he is holding kind of like such a responsibility, and that responsibility is a kind of like make him kind of like do work more. Okay, so it's a kind of like a cycle that, okay, let me tell you one thing, you are holding this much responsibility, but because of this much responsibility, you kind of like this much work. Now because of this much work, you kind of like gain this much responsibility. Now because of you are kind of like getting this much responsibility, you kind of like do this much work. Now because of this much work, you are kind of like getting this much responsibility, so because of this much responsibility, you can kind of like do even more work. It's a kind of like a thing, it's a stacking between that. It's never end, it's never kind of like a slowly stop. This is a equation does not kind of like a somebody acted upon the kind of like a normal people. Why? Because normal people doesn't really hold that much responsibility. Normal people hold the responsibility, but they are personal responsibility, like basically taking care of the family or things and that, not a kind of like somebody try to build something that kind of like a crazy and things like that. No, it's normal people are kind of like have just normal responsibility, and they are kind of like a tends to do that thing. But if you are kind of like a particular person who became something much more bigger, like Elon Musk, then he has a responsibility to always kind of like somebody always try to do something more. Okay, I always try to do something more, because if he not do something more, then he will not gonna become that particular person. Okay, so this is what it is like and basically is this thing, it's far more convenient for him to do something more. Why? Because of that economy, and like basically the way that our economy are actually kind of like settled in such a way that it kind of like somebody it kind of like something is this thing that giving a value to such a people who are kind of like putting effort, adding value to the economy, or adding value to the society and things and that. So economy are tends to attach with the innovation. Okay, if we not actually innovate, the economy will gonna collapse, and everyone are try to kind of like making sure that economy should supposed to be strong and things and that. So that's why every country are growing, every country are kind of like building something, every country are kind of like somebody making sure they are kind of like yeah, like basically I'm belong to the India, and kind of like every year I kind of like went somewhere else and things like that. I kind of like find a kind of like a new store, new road, kind of like a new infrastructure and things like that. That is because of that key India is actually growing. Okay, same, not only say it, not only it goes with me, it goes with the kind of like every country is actually growing, kind of like a showing that what they could able to be do. They are building the infrastructure, they are building a kind of like a somewhat something much more better and things like that. Okay, does people need it? Well, it's not really needed, but it kind of like a make their life little bit convenient. Okay, yeah, and because of the convenient, it kind of like add value, and because of it add value, it kind of like add responsibility. Because it add responsibility, it kind of like a do more and things like that. Okay, yeah, like ask simple question. Okay, yeah, if I'm gonna ask to you, do you want to become Elon Musk? Most of people say yes, I wanted to become Elon Musk and things like that. Okay, yeah. If I'm gonna say, do you want to become astronaut? Everyone might gonna say yes, I wanted to become astronaut. Okay, now if I'm gonna say, do you want to become a kind of like somebody just a normal guy who is a kind of like somebody just doing a job, a 9 to 5 job, and kind of like a came home and kind of like somebody just taking care of family and things and that. Do you want that particular person? Most of people might gonna say, yeah, but not really that much. Okay, like do you understand now the enthusiasm for be a astronaut, the enthusiasm to for being a Elon Musk is a kind of like a far more higher than normal person. And that is what it is, like as a normal person does not really hold that much responsibility. It hold the responsibility, but it hold personal responsibility like a family and things and that, which is kind of like a people don't really care that all. Like people care, but it's a like a very close circle and things and that. But if you want to become something much more bigger and things and that, then you have to kind of like a tend to do more, tend to do more again. This cycle never really stop because economy supported, the finance supported, the money actually supported. If you are innovating stuff, you are earning money. If you are innovating stuff, you are kind of like a getting bigger. If you are innovating something stuff, you are kind of like a getting popular. If you are innovating stuff, you are kind of like a considered as a kind of like a somebody, one of the biggest in kind of like a somewhat something like that. So do you understand now? So basically is this thing that we are innovating stuff is not because of needed, it because of the economy and supports and kind of like a things are kind of like a tends to do the more build something, and which is right by the which is right by because of that when the innovation actually happened, we grow every single year, we actually grow, and that's the kind of like a things. Okay, so example is this thing that I have to be asked this question: if I build a kind of like AI that could predict the future, and basically is this thing that I realize that no, I shouldn't supposed to build the AI, I should supposed to be stopped, then what does people might gonna lose? People might not gonna lose anything at all. It's not really that people might gonna kind of like some event hunker and things like that. No, but the economy kind of like the growth will kind of like get little bit of slower. Okay, now why am I kind of like saying this thing? Because of that, Adam have a kind of like a power to predict the future. Now because of this is a kind of like one of the biggest power, and because of this power it kind of like make the life more convenient. How? Let's understand. Humans are like a you me humans, we are kind of like a somebody do not think from what I'm saying, we are reactive people. Okay, what's a reactive people? uh, okay, it's a very hard to explain, it's not really hard. Something goes wrong, we react. Something goes wrong, we react. Our reaction depends on after things go wrong, not before. Okay, like this is what it is na? Like if you lose money, sorry, if you lose your mobile phone, or if you kind of like someone kind of like somebody you forget, or maybe kind of like you lose your mobile phone, so your reaction actually happened. So your reaction actually happened after you lose your phone. Okay, yeah. What if you are kind of like reacting before you lose the phone? And what exactly that reaction might gonna do? Like insurance, or kind of like somebody add a kind of like IMEI number, or kind of like a tracking system, or maybe kind of like add a kind of like a protection, or maybe whatever it is to kind of like make sure this stuff is not actually happen. Okay, yeah. Previously, almost like hundreds year ago, people are reactive after the incident actually happened. Like this is the incident, this is the reaction. Human reaction actually happened after the incident. But in today's world or in the future, humans are kind of like such an advance that they are reacting is not because of the kind of like incident actually happened. They are reacting is because of the before the incident actually happened. How do I supposed to say? Health insurance. Let's say health insurance. Do I have health insurance? Like I don't really have health insurance because I'm not really earning any money. But most of the people have health insurance. Not most of the people, but somewhat something people have health insurance. Why they have health insurance? Because they are reacting before the incident actually happened. This is the incident, this is the reaction. They are reacting before the incident actually happened. So because of this thing, they are making sure if incident actually happened, because we are living the life, health crisis, everything, every time actually happened. So they are kind of like protecting that incident. They are protecting the layer so that when things actually happen, it might not kind of like explode, like the financial burden and things, and that will not gonna happen. Do you understand? So people are kind of like reacting before the incident. Okay. Now, why am I kind of like telling you this thing? Because right now humans are kind of like smart enough to understand that they would making sure their future as kind of like secure as possible. They buy health insurance, they buy term life insurance, they kind of like invested in gold or kind of like SIP or things or mutual funds. People don't really do this thing like a 50 year ago. But right now people do this thing. Why? Because of that key people are understanding the kind of like somebody reacting before the incident is kind of like add value in their life. Okay, they are kind of like more prepared of things might gonna come. So do you understand? Right now people are kind of like looking from long point of perspective. They are not looking at short distances. They are kind of like looking at long point of perspective, and that is the kind of like things. Another example, Elon Musk. I kind of like giving the Elon Musk every single time, but Elon Musk is a kind of like a really good example that kind of like a really fit for this role. Elon Musk, kind of like somebody, he has a company called PayPal, and he sold that company to eBay and kind of like a gain almost like a $150 million or something like that, which is kind of like one of the highest money in 2003, maybe 2003 or 2004. I'm not really sure about that. Okay. With this money, almost like a 150 or kind of like a $200 million, he invested that money on three things: car manufacturing company Tesla, SpaceX, and kind of like somebody Starlink. Okay, like Starlink, I will not gonna talk about that, but Tesla and SpaceX. Now Tesla is a car where electric car does not require fuel to go. It's electric car, it charge, it can go, and the rocket can kind of like assembly reusable rocket. Now let me tell you one thing, these are ideas are very relevant in today's world. Relevant means like that it's kind of like a things that it's very necessary in today's world, means like in 2026. But if I ask the same question in 2003, like 2003, by the way, 2003 or 2004, that I am investing $150 million in a kind of like electric car or a kind of like a somebody reusable rocket, how stupid that investment was. Like literally very stupid, because at that time no one actually buy the electric car, no one kind of like using reusable rocket and things and that, but still Elon Musk spent that much amount of money on those fields. Why? Because he think long-term vision. He thinks that in the future fossil fuel is not a kind of like a fuel they will kind of like use for rest of the lifetime. They will switch to the another fuel. Elon understand that key people need to use electric car somewhat somewhere in the future. So he invested somewhat something money on building a Tesla to kind of like make such a car that could kind of like run on electric. Okay, yeah. This is kind of like a very mind-boggling. Like he kind of like invested that much amount of money in 2003 on electric car, and that's why he became the Elon Musk. Same goes with the SpaceX. no one thinks that ki kind of like a reusable rocket is a kind of like a thing. But how? No one thinks as a kind of like a reusable rocket. But he built that reusable rocket, and he built and he thinks from long-term vision point of perspective. What I'm saying is that na ki right now people are kind of like getting smarter. People are kind of like somebody taking reaction before the incident actually happened, thinking long-term vision, and that is a growth. Because when you think from long-term vision, you understand the context more, you are prepared more. It is also very less effortless too. It is kind of like a really required little less effort, and also is this thing, it kind of like adds so much beneficial. That's why so many people are kind of like buying healthcare insurance, term life insurance, SIP, FD, and things like that. And that the kind of like a big rich people are kind of like investing such a money on kind of like a future technology that might gonna impact and things like that. And that. Okay, yeah. So this is what it is. This is what kind of like somebody is saying. People are kind of like do this thing, and Adam is a kind of like a things that make that capability even more stronger. Like basically is this thing that if you wanted to build something after 20 years, then what should you do supposed to do now to kind of like make this actually happen. That's why I'm kind of like a recording artifact or recording this thing to kind of like I would be aware of that, so that when I will build Adam, then I would understand how do I supposed to do this thing, how do I supposed to build Adam, what kind of like, the possibility that I might gonna face when all the things and that. So this is what it is. Okay, yeah. It's kind of like a things. Now, if I didn't really build the Adam that would predict the future, what might gonna impact on people? Well, people will not gonna think from broader point of perspective. They might gonna think from broader point of perspective, but they might not get the proper evidence or kind of like something things that they might gonna do this thing or not. Okay, yeah. Adam is a kind of like a making sure that whatever they are kind of like doing, they are kind of in the right path or not. Okay, yeah. Adam kind of like making sure that whatever the target that you choose for the long term are really legit or not. Is it kind of like a really profitable for you or not? Is it kind of like somebody add any kind of like a value or not? It kind of like giving that evidence, and from that evidence we are so sure regarding about should we supposed to be invest money, invest time, invest effort on that thing. Okay, yeah. If I not build the kind of like a something the Adam, this might gonna happen. Okay, yeah. But if I build the Adam, then it would kind of like a people might gonna so sure regarding what they should supposed to do regarding what might gonna possible consequences. Adam does not kind of like a give the exact thing. Adam predict the future with the confidence level, with the probability that how much kind of like a confidence that you have. Adam kind of like a give in the percentage, like a 60% probability or maybe 70% probability or 80% probability that this might gonna happen. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like considered as a kind of like evidence, and from that evidence people might gonna look at from long-term point of perspective with kind of like a broader vision, with kind of like a clear vision what they should supposed to be do. And because of this thing, it add value in their life, not only in their life, their ecosystem, their organization, their everything. Adam is make the life little bit better. If I didn't rebuild the Adam, life does not stop, but growth will kind of like slow down, or maybe like a stagnant, or maybe little less. Okay, yeah. But if I build the Adam, growth will kind of like accelerate little bit more. It's kind of like if I build the Adam, it push the paddle little bit, accelerate to grow little bit further, to understand, to humanity kind of like make more little bit better and things and that. If I not, the car will kind of like go as normal speed and things and that. Okay. There are so many kind of like possible consequences that if I not really build, like basically Adam is basically the scenario is a kind of like way much vast, because Adam can predict the future and what might gonna do. There are millions of billions of consequences. So yeah, this is a lot of stuff. Alright, this is it. I have to be in here.